am so excited to introduce Jessica Fritter for those of you who haven't met her. She's part of ACRP for a long time, which is an organization that's near and dear to my heart. And in fact, she's the chapter president of the Ohio chapter. So we really thank her for her leadership there. And if you're not part of a chapter, there's probably a plug for that because they can offer some additional educational courses and things like that to help you keep your certification or just learn things in your field. So the ACRP chapters are a great thing to get involved with. Jessica is with the Ohio State University and is going to talk to us today about an article that she co-wrote about career paths in clinical research. And I found it to be very helpful. I hope you do as well. Enjoy. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for joining me today. As soon as I read your ACRP article, Mapping the Pathway of the Clinical Research Career, I contacted you the same day it came out. I was so excited to read it since that's what this workforce series has been on this blog. And one of the things was this great subway map that you
Yeah.
had. And I would just love for you to talk about the clinical research career map and cover some of the highlights of your article.
Yeah, I would love to. So we came up with this map because it's similar to when I started my career, and my career started in doing a lot of research on education and there not being a lot of training programs, all this stuff. That's kind of how this started, is I started to realize, well, we aren't doing a good job at telling people all the type of positions and jobs that they could go into. And we need to do better at that. I have so many, I mentored so many people. I had so many employees that would come to me and say, Jess, where do I go? What do I do? I'm a CRC. I kind of really like this. I don't want to go to med school or PA school. So where do I go? And it really started my wheels turning. And as I got more heavily into education and teaching, I worked with my colleague, Dr. Carolyn Jones, and we were like, we need something visual for people to see and to also see that they can start on one route of the map, one line, and move to another. You don't have to stick within, the one segment of it. So we really created this so that way all clinical research professionals or people who kind of don't even know about the field but are interested are able to see where to start. How do I get my foot in the door? What does this all look like? Because there's so much. We all know there is the clinical aspect of it, there's the recruiting patients, there's becoming a PI, being a research nurse, all of these very, very important positions. And then there's also positions that are more regulatory based, more project management based. There's so many positions within industry and pharmaceutical land, and talking about those. How does that translate to then maybe even going and working on the business side and doing feasibility and budgets or grants and contracts? So we really just wanted to show everything possible. And we still missed, of course, probably other positions that should be discussed. But that's the beauty of this field, is just how large and vast it is. And so with creating that, we also wanted to talk more about how do you get into the field? How do you market yourself? How do you be successful in this career? And the real big thing of that is understanding yourself and understanding, your strengths. Because if you understand your strengths, you're able to align better with a position and a job that is going to work fantastic for you. And then you can work up that career ladder or stay within, the area that you want to. We do not always have to move up and up and up. That is something that I think was being into a lot of us growing up. It is okay to, really enjoy your work in one area and stay there.
Those are great points. No, I had to follow every line on the subway. I just had to. And it was fun to see some of the things, sometimes you learn because of the location you've been in. So I was at an
Mhm.
academic medical center when I started, and because I don't have a nursing degree, basically I was the type of coordinator who only did IRB submissions. We had a local IRB. So I had like this long regulatory path that really served me in understanding other things before I ever even got to see a patient. And I felt so informed both directions. If you see patients and then you're in contract and budget, what a difference it makes for your negotiating. There's so much interplay between these as well. It is fun to learn all of them. and it makes for a really good site director or whatever. But you're right, you don't have to continue on a straight path. You can change between things, or you can stay exactly where you are because it's so fulfilling and there's so much to do. So when you are looking at career paths and talking to people, do you see some things that are like hot topics right now that people want to go into, or things that they're not seeing that they're just not even considering as a job option?
Absolutely. I think I'll kind of go backwards on this question. One of the areas that I see a lot of people not even thinking about or considering is the business side. Working in more of the administration positions or looking at site operations, but really those budgets, contracts, being a feasibility coordinator, they're ones that aren't those hot buttons or people don't think about when they think clinical trials. They think, let me go and get in the nitty gritty. Let me talk to the patients. Let me work with the PIs really closely, which you do in grants and contracts. But I think that that's such an untapped area and an area that there's so much opportunity and it's so needed. That may be my own business budget analytical brain talking too. But I think that it is one of those areas that we don't see enough conversation about. And really, I think strategically, even thinking about how do we market this career to business majors and let them know that there's even more that they could go into. The hot jobs that I see are
Mhm.
always, the CRA positions. How do I become a CRA? How do I make that transition? What do I need to do to make that jump? Because I think they do see how much more they can learn in those roles, and they're so valuable. And especially once you have some of that site perspective, moving into those areas, it's really good. You're able to give that, idea when it comes to negotiating, when it comes to study design, when it comes to putting all these monitoring plans together. You really have a different area. And I would say I do think that is the most intriguing area that I see a lot of people wanting to move to. The other side of it is I see a lot of people that I talk to um, just wanting to move up, wanting to get into those leadership positions, wanting to, really grow their own portfolio to continue to kind of rise within the field.
Yeah, you were talking about ways to, I can't remember what that section is called. Oh, facilitators to career entry. You had a
Hmm.
lot of really good ideas. One of the ones I would love to discuss is internships, because that has come up before. Where you mentioned the article that you see internships, where do people find these?
So I personally am able to see them a lot because we have a lot of people come to us working at Ohio State and having the master's program. We, get a lot of internships coming our way to send out to our students, so that way they can apply to them. So I've learned a lot about them there, and through that, I've made a lot of connections. I think the important thing for people to do is if you don't have a LinkedIn, get one, and then follow these companies that you're interested in. So whether that be Merck or PPD or any of these larger areas. It could even be, an academic center. And, find their research institute page, follow them. So that way you're able to hear more about internship opportunities, job opportunities, and you can really get on it fast and go ahead and apply.
Yeah, those are really important, and that's a great takeaway, I think, for this chat too, is having a good LinkedIn page because it does matter. I would think, I mean, I at least did, and human resources would look at a person's profile and see if they had one. It speaks to your professionalism, even if you haven't had a job before. You've had something and you could be reading articles and contributing to the world in some way. And I love that one. And then creating a good resume was on there. What in your mind makes for a good resume? Whether it's a skill set or just something you don't want said, something you do want said.
Yes. Having been a leader for many years and hiring and doing all of that, I have to say the resumes that stood out the most to me were not the trendy ones. They weren't the ones in this new template with the picture on and all that stuff. They were the ones that were so, first you're talking about what your education was, what's your certification, what have you gotten from that front? And then when it comes to your skill set, even if you've never worked in clinical research, make sure that you're putting in your jobs and how does it maybe translate? What are some of those, transferable skills that you have that really do justice for you? And take your time, please. I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of times we rush or we throw everything on the page and we don't need to do that. Yes, initially put everything on there and then start weeding it out. This is also where it's good to have a mentor or somebody who can look at it for you and kind of help you go through it a little bit better. But it is so important to make sure that you keep, if you are in clinical research, you keep a running list of all the studies that you're working on. Add that as an addendum. Show your, proficiency. It's very difficult in this field to stick to that one-page resume. If I told anybody how long my resume, well, CV now is, it's ridiculous, but it's so important to show that stuff. Even if you're submitting a 6-page resume, I'd rather you submit that and allow somebody to just peruse it and see, oh, you have 5 publications, you've worked on 20 studies, you've done this, because that right there is going to be an eye catcher in this field. And somebody's going to look even further and be like, okay, they know their stuff, they know what they're doing. So don't shy away from that at all.
Those are really good. Yeah, there are companies though that make you go down to one page, and it is a little hard if you've been in the industry for some amount of time.
Yes.
So you're like, and 100 research studies is like a
Yeah.
one-line item.
Exactly. Available upon request is the best, little phrase to put in there. Yep.
I like it. So I loved your article. Thank you for writing that. I saw you on a panel at ACRP at the 2023 annual conference, and it was so great. I thought you were just wonderful. So really, thank you for joining me today. I so
Of
appreciate it,
course.
Jessica.
Thank you. I appreciate you for inviting me.